mean, you and I have to turn in the notes.
I'm recording it. It's
Okay.
recording to the cloud, so you should be able to go on the cloud and get it, right?
Sure, why not? Okay, everybody, we're on, we're being
hang on.
recorded.
David, is it still not coming on? Your audio doesn't show up on the screen?
I don't. Well, we need David, so
Yeah, hang on.
no problem.
I'm going to mute myself for a second.
We'll alert the media.
Seconds up.
I haven't heard from either of the Demeglios, so maybe John's working tonight. It's quite possible.
Is John Longshore?
Yes,
Okay. 63 or 13?
do not know.
Cold night to be working.
Yeah, yeah. Nice that we're all in our heated abodes.
I'm gonna get kicked out to the garage here pretty soon.
Really? Oh, no.
My wife's got a meeting here in a little bit too.
Sorry, Andy. Well,
It's all right.
You'll go first. You won't have to wait around too long.
It's all good.
I made David tap out and he's going to rejoin us. And I told him what to do. Because in the beginning, it comes up, join with video, and you click on that. And then it says join with audio. And you're supposed to click on that. So
It's funny. I was not asked both questions. It just said join with video. So here I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But you always talk about the lower left button on the screen, and mine isn't like that. So anyway, all is
Well,
well.
because you must be on a tablet then.
Funny, you should say that. That is correct.
Yeah, because if you were on like a laptop and anything, on the very bottom where it shows participants, Q&A, share screen, pause, stop recording, on the very far left, it says mute the mic
Okay.
and then stop video.
No, you're right. I'm on an iPad, so you're correct.
Okay, unmute yourself, David.
Okay, we're in.
There you go.
Yay,
See,
David.
that's how it works on some. So let me change David back to his name.
Oh,
Everybody's looking good.
wait, what changed back to his name? What is he? Hollywood Rivera?
Yeah, it could be.
Oh, brother.
David, it's kind of you to say that everybody looks good.
Right.
Hey, we're just lucky to be here, kids.
Tell me about it.
I think Andy Harris is decamping to the garage.
In a moment.
Okay. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and David. When Hollywood gets his name up here, we'll have our quorum and be ready to go.
Good.
You saw the email, David. I sent it to Chuck too. I sent it to
Oh.
both of you.
Yeah, I just talked to him.
Okay.
I hope Chuck is feeling okay after his hospital stay.
He's feeling good and sounding good.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah. We're happy.
What happened?
That's good news.
It's wonderful news.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Yeah, he
kind of
was in the hospital for some minor operation.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was supposed to be overnight and he was there for 2 weeks.
Oh,
Oh,
geez.
Terrible.
seems to be the way of the world.
Dan, do you want to share the agenda? Because I don't have it.
Well, I have it, but you mean you want me to show it?
Well, yeah.
Well, you got my wife laughing.
I,
Here's
No.
the agenda.
no, hang on, hang
Enjoy.
on,
Hopefully everybody has a copy.
hang on. I'll screen.
I got mine right here.
Look, it's
Oh
Johnny
my
Carson,
God.
it's me, Karnak. Karnak, the Magnificent.
Oh my God. I give up. I give
Well,
up.
I know what he means, but I don't know how to do that.
Don't forget to open the envelope and blow the powder out.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait,
That's it.
wait,
Ah, very good.
wait.
Yeah, but that
Oh,
looks like a
President
bill
Trump-
envelope. You don't want to rip
President Trump is president again.
And the
They
question
impeached
is,
the wrong guy.
hey, can't
All
get
right.
it right the first time.
Yeah.
So, well,
All right, let
welcome
me,
everybody. We're gonna go ahead because we now have a quorum.
Okay,
And,
let me work on getting, go ahead, you talk.
okay, me yak, okay. Thank you, John. Welcome to this January meeting of the Neighborhood Issues Committee. It's 1 year today that Southern California suffered a shock with the loss of Kobe Bryant and his daughter and their party in that helicopter tragedy. Little did we know at the time that it was the beginning of a very strange, taxing and tiring year,
Yeah,
which we were all glad finally to be clear of. But I think on January 6th, we all felt like it was December 37th or something, and that surely the new year had not begun. A lot has gone on. Things seem to be stabilizing, and that's the good news, not only partly on the national scene, but also here locally. The fever may not be broken on our illness situation, but it's beginning to show good signs, and that's something to be grateful for. John, thank you for putting up the agenda. That's great.
You're welcome. I
don't
can give you a little bit more insight. My wife works at Torrance Memorial, and up until the 18th of January, they were averaging, after Christmas, they started averaging between 220 and 250 per day of people with COVID.
Wow.
As of the 18th, 19th, it started dropping. And as of Monday, yesterday, she said it was at 192. So
Good.
pretty good sign.
Good.
You know, that's a
So down
50.
20%. That's good.
Yeah. So
Let's hope that trend continues. It's just been an extraordinary time. And sometimes it feels a little strange to be talking about such local issues as we will be tonight, but they are important in the scheme of things. And what we're all hoping for is for the scheme of things to return. So with that in mind, welcome again. We begin, everybody, Andy Harris is with us. As you see,
hello.
there are no mystery guests anymore. Everybody's picture is up here. So let's start with item 2, and I'll really turn it over to John to introduce Andy and see what's going on down there on Channel Street. Go ahead, John.
okay, well, let me give you a real good thing on the on what's I talked to Axel as of Friday. I sent him an email and wanting to know, because on the 21st they had you know, it goes through a committee, and then that when we last talked, at the they had sent it for the board now. So it went to the committee, and as of Thursday, the committee voted it in. So now it goes to the council now, and Andy will explain more about that for, I guess it goes this week or next week. And, but right now the committee's got it in. So it's up to now the council to vote this back in, and it should, I'll let Andy finish it off with that.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hello, guys. Do you guys have a little bit of a primer on the history of the place? I know I've been to a few neighborhood council meetings over the last several years, decades at this point with this skate park, but I'm not sure if I've met everybody and if they know the whole story.
I think we're pretty well versed on it, Andy.
Okay.
And I guess yours is one agenda item where we can look forward to something rather than having to rehash the past.
Well, yeah,
So go ahead.
that's a good thing. So yeah, what John had just mentioned about the skate park being the transfer of jurisdiction from the port to the general services department is kind of in the middle of it right now. It's been accepted by committee, the GSD committee in the council, and it's coming back to full council for approval. I believe Axel told me next week, late next week. Yes. So that's where we stand on that kind of bureaucratic political side of things. This, if you want to see kind of what has happened with COVID over the last year, a good example of seeing how bad things have gotten is to just go down into that parking lot and see how bad it's gotten down there with homelessness, illegal dumping, and really no police presence whatsoever. So we just, as a group, as our group is the San Pedro Skate Park Association, we put out on our social media platforms last week that we were going to be having a cleanup because it had gotten completely out of hand down there. A lot of people living in their vehicles, a lot of drug dealing going on down there. And like I said, very little, if at all, any police kind of response. So we went down there and cleaned the crap out of the place, and it looks great right now. Cleaned all the graffiti up. We had about 50 people down there, gladly to say that almost every single one of them was wearing a mask. We had parents, we had kids, we had everybody down there, just trash bags in hand, paint rollers in hand, and we cleaned the place up, kind of getting prepped for what's to come next. So what comes next is apparently what Axel has told me and a couple other people involved in this is that once the motion is approved by the city council, the approval of the transfer, we will have some kind of a Zoom meeting with the city attorney and probably some lawyers and whatnot about working on a lease agreement for the property. And we'll be getting our liability insurance back in place. We used to have a liability policy back before 2014 when we were operating. And now I've already contacted a couple of companies. I have a pretty good idea of where we're going to go with it to get a liability policy back in place. And first step for us is beyond the cleanup is once we get back in there is to rebuild some sections that the freeway contractor had to tear out to do earthquake retrofitting and whatnot. And we need to put some guardrails up. There's we had an agreement with the city to install code compliant guardrails around the perimeter of all the skate area. And there was a skate park contractor that is actually on our plans. They're our actual contractor. They're called Spawn Ranch skate parks. They have built multiple skateboard parks throughout the city. They basically, along with Vans, skateboard shoes, have donated all the material for the guard railings, which was to the amount of about $25,000. So it was a big deal. And now we're going to go about installing them once we get actually the keys to the park and we can get back in there and start working. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Andy, I think I heard you correctly. Did you say Spawn Ranch Skateboard?
Yes, how about that? It's not SPAHN, it's SPO. It's a play on words, but yes,
Oh, it is. Okay.
you were correct. But
Got
it's
it.
the
Thank
owner
you.
of the owner of the company is named Aaron Spawn. His last name SPOHN, but definitely a play
Oh,
on.
okay. SPOHN. Thank you.
They
I
are
want to
one
get
of the-
that one right.
They are,
Uh,
yes.
Well, just as a layman driving by, it always struck me that the scariest part of the park was the lack of serious guardrails. So this seems like a really good thing,
Yeah,
the best thing that can be done to enhance safety there.
without a doubt. And if you actually got closer to it and got up on the actual bowls, the skatable bowls, you would see that we do have a lot of guard railings up there. There was a couple definite spots that needed more, but this will be 100% better.
Great.
Well,
Wonderful. You mentioned,
that's good, because at least when they do their 520s or 740s, they're not gonna,
Oh boy.
go over the edge.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's true. That's very true.
Sorry, Dan. My son was an X Games rollerblader, so
Really?
did it for 12 years. Yeah,
wow, fantastic.
yeah.
It's
So
sure exciting to watch.
that's the only. Well, yeah, but when you come home and broke both his wrists, had stitches on his arm. I'm lucky he had kids. I figured as many times as he landed on the pole a lot, but
Yeah.
you know,
Wow.
but yeah,
Well,
no, it
and
was.
I take that back. As a parent, it's always terrifying, I'm sure. So, so you mentioned liability insurance. Is the association entirely responsible for insuring the park?
If it goes the same way that we did when we had an insurance policy when the port was in charge, then yes. And it was that, I guess, I don't remember how it was phrased, but the port was included on the policy as kind of a, what would that word be?
A rider covered them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would cover. That's the main thing, is they wanted themselves
Sure.
covered, and
Sure.
so the city in the same respect wants the same.
Additional insured, it's called.
Okay, additionally
Additional
insured. Exactly, Pat. That's exactly what it is.
Good. That's great. Is this arrangement with the city, as far as you know, is it unique within the city or anywhere, that this public-private turning over a public property to a private organization?
I'm not sure within the city of Los Angeles. I know that we're not the only do-it-yourself skate park in the country. This all kind of started in the early 90s up in Portland under the Burnside Bridge. There's a skate park there that's now designated a historic place in Oregon. And it's called the Burnside Project. It was built under the freeway there. You can see why they might need some skate parks under overpasses up there with all the rain. And it was a very similar situation to ours, where it was kind of an eyesore area and not really being used for anything except for illegal dumping and vagrancy. And then from Burnside, we went to FDR, which is in Philadelphia, which is another overpass skateboard park that's still in existence. And then down south in San Diego, you have Washington Street. That's kind of where we decided to call ours Channel Street. Washington Street skate park down in San Diego is also another DIY that has partnered with the city of San Diego in that case. Everybody's operations slightly different, everybody's. So I'm not 100% sure what those different skateboard parks have done over the years, but in a lot of ways it is similar. I mean, it's whether they own the land or whether they lease the land, they're still there. That's the main thing, and they've done a pretty phenomenal job over the years of making sure that they stay there.
Good.
Kind of like the one in Anaheim, that I guess Van Shoes built that one.
You mean the block?
The block,
The block.
yeah.
Yeah, the block's closed now.
Did they close it?
Yeah, they closed. They moved
Yeah.
all their stuff over to a public park in Huntington Beach. It's
Okay.
a very good park though.
So interestingly, I think these other cities and their experiences have paved the way in effect for it happening here, or there's
Those
a
were the
clean
three.
enough record of it.
Those were the three. Those were the three before us, and then once we got going in the early 2000s, we actually, when Janice Hahn was the councilwoman, we actually helped, and she actually helped. Her office actually helped with another one. It's called Marginal Way up in Seattle, which still exists as well. It's right next to the port. It's kind of our sister skate park because it's right next to their harbor in Seattle. And Janice's office helped the local city council district up there realize the benefit of what this kind of an operation could be. So
Wow.
it's kind of a long line of them, and they've blossomed all over the world now. DIY parks are in almost every, in almost every country that has skateboarders.
Amazing. That's great. It's great. Thank you, Andy. This is, as I've said before here, this is uplifting.
Good.
It's
I'm
great
glad
to
be
have
uplifting.
a pretty clean issue that is being resolved. And I think it's sort of stunning that the city, which, let's face it, is not known for making things easy.
This has been a total pain in the ass.
Yeah, okay.
But just so you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for making that clear. Because all we see are the good results, but that's the result of years of effort on your part, your colleagues, and
Yeah.
and some good people in the city as well.
Andy, when do they, once it passes the council, what's the time frame?
That's the big question. Considering my track record with this and what we've been through, I fully expect every step of the way to be difficult. Even though Axel and Joe's office might say, oh, now we're going to get to this part, it's going to be a piece of cake. They also said that, if you guys will recall, back in 2019, when we first got our construction documents and Joe organized this thing down there where we came down and kind of broke the champagne and everything was looking good. And the next week we went and rented an excavator, and we went and got the place open, had to have the port police open, and they wouldn't give us the keys yet. Went in there and started working. And then before you know it, a week later, there's new locks on there and they're saying that we can't go in. So to me, there was a communication breakdown, which often seems to be the case between the council office and the port. And this thing that was supposed to have been resolved, over a year ago, and we would have already been back in there and running, was shoved back to the back burner again. And it turned into I had a couple phone calls with port officials where they kind of said the exact opposite of what Joe was saying. So it just kind of, long story short, every step of the way, I just expect trouble.
Okay, well, if there's anything when the time comes that any of us, either committee or council, let us know, keep us posted, keep me posted, and we'll try to do what we can on our part, on our side.
Well, you're going to start, thank you, I appreciate that. You're going to start seeing a lot more activity down there because we've taken it upon ourselves to kind of almost take that place back. It's gotten so bad down there, and that was such a good, positive cleanup that we had on Sunday. We got a lot of ideas out for that corner with where Gibson and Channel are right there. We're going to start cleaning up that area, and we're putting in a permit for those utility boxes to paint them like a lot of the other utility boxes that you see around, around town. We're planning on getting some signage and doing some dry low water irrigation kind of cactus type plants out on that corner. If you think about it, that corner is a very visible corner and it looks like shit. So we would really like to start going in that direction. And I think that's what we're going to do just as an organization in the very, very near term. And then also I've gotten a lot of inquiries from muralists, not graffiti muralists, so to speak, but more like legit muralists that really are interested in those freeway support beams and that long wall along Gibson, that long cinder block wall that's the perimeter of the skate park, for doing some really cool public art. So that's another thing I'm going to be pursuing going forward too. If you guys are, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Chicano Park down in San Diego.
Yeah.
Murals basically done by local organizations, no real permits or anything like that, but it's a beautiful community operation that I really think would make that part of Pedro just way better than it is.
Yeah, even if
So-
they put something nice along like where the fence is,
Mhm.
If they would put some sort of, fiberglassing all around it, like you said, and maybe they could paint something really cool on it and, that would be kind of,
Those are just some plans we've got going forward. I mean, it's not just a public skateboard park that brings a lot of kids together. You think about that junction right there between two parts of Pedro. You got North Pedro, kind of Target, Home Depot area, and then right up Pacific, you've got the projects. And I cannot tell you how many great connections kids over the years from those two very different worlds have come together down there. So it's one of those things that I didn't realize until after the park was shut down, what a necessity that is. I mean, having Peck Park is great, but it's not the same as that spot.
yeah. It does bring a lot of people together, a lot of kids together. Did you guys clean the posts too, the pillars?
Yeah, the whole parking lot got cleaned, everything, all the paint, all
Okay,
the
you
graffiti's
painted
gone, everything.
all the pillars, nice, excellent.
And as of 2 days later, there's no tags on it, but it's a matter of time.
You're holding your own. That's great.
Yeah, I got some questions.
Good, Pat, go ahead.
Andy, will you be, who will be the property on behalf of the city? Will it be Recreation and Parks,
It'll be General Services Department.
General Services? Do you know what your terms of your lease is?
No, that's the next step, but Axel is claiming $1 a year. We shall see.
Length of the term, though, the length of the lease?
I do not know any of that yet,
Okay.
but that's hopefully the next step we're going to be heading to, is what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Do you, your association, you have a board?
Yeah, we just 3 members.
Oh, okay.
It's
Good,
just
good.
it's a 501c3. We started in 2004 because the Tony Hawk Foundation asked us to become a nonprofit so they could give us money.
Great. And I'm imagining you'll be looking for opportunities for fundraising?
Absolutely. And the great thing over the last year is that Vans Skateboard Shoes got involved because one of their major athletes is a kid that grew up at that skate park. He's one of the biggest pro skateboarders in the world right now. And he grew up in Pedro, and he's the local kid. And so Vans, once they heard of our situation, has come in and wants to continue to be a stakeholder in this, a major stakeholder, to keep funding art, skateboarding, youth engagement, all of that kind of stuff in our community.
Great, great.
Yeah.
What's that young man's name?
Ronnie Sandoval.
Oh. A not unfamiliar name. Okay.
Yes, he is. He's a talent. I've known the kid since he was about 8 years old, and he's in his 20s now, and he is a talent.
Wow. So San Pedro has Misty Copeland and Ronnie Sandoval. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and Mike Watt, and let's see. Well, I could go for days.
I know, Alan Autry, right. Yes, indeed. Wonderful, wonderful. Understanding your frustration with the city, and that in the end being no surprise, it's still a delight that you've gotten this far finally, and that you have persevered through this process, and we join everyone else in looking forward to your further progress and ultimate success. And as John said earlier, whatever we can do, we have a 4 times a year newsletter that goes to everybody in San Pedro, and let's keep the relationship going, and let us know how we can help.
Well, absolutely will. And like I said, we're going to start pumping up our presence down there. And as time goes on, we're probably going to be doing more events. Like I said, there's some people interested in some art. There's definitely always going to be room for cleanups down there. So when I do schedule these kind of events, I will contact you guys,
Please.
stop in to kind of see it in real time. You know what I mean?
Great. And
Okay.
perhaps we can help get the word out on some of it.
Yeah.
This is great. Any other questions for Andy? Boy, these meetings are so quiet. Oh, wow. Anyway, thanks, Andy. Thanks for all your good work for the community and for your organization, and keep it up. And we'll see you at Channel and Gibson.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Andy,
you.
thank you a lot, Andy. I appreciate you coming on.
And now
No
you
problem,
can
John.
now you
I
can
got
go
you.
in from your garage.
Yeah, I
Take
know.
care.
I'm freezing.
Yeah. I bet.
See you later.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Very good. He's impressive. That's thank you, John, for facilitating this with him.
No, you're welcome. I mean, that's, I
That is
like-
very, very cool. Very cool. On to item 3, and we have another special guest here tonight, our own Pat Nave. And I got to learn to manage my screen a little better. Let's see, we still have our quorum. Thank you, David. Good. Okay. We began to talk about the horn noise problems and issues along Gaffey and around the port. And Pat has been kind enough to, he gave us a bit of a primer last time about what the past has been and what's going on. And I believe you're back tonight, Pat, to talk to us a bit more about next steps, or what we need to be aware of, or how to proceed from this point. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
Good. Please proceed.
right. As you recall last time, I was kind of laid out a little bit of context, but the rail horn noise is a product of what's required by the Interstate Commerce Commission, basically, and trains, when they approach a crossing, have to blow their horns, 2 longs, a short and a long, at about 107 decibels, which is quite loud, and that's what we hear at night. And as the port gets busier, is kind of recovering recently, they've gone back to the 24-hour a day port, and where they're assembling trains, particularly at night. So we're going to be hearing train noise increasing in the nighttime hours. 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock seem to be pretty active times for these for the train switching issues when they put together the unit trains on the docks. So if you may recall, I put out sent out a link to quiet zones in the state of California, actually all over the country. And the quiet zones are something that's provided for in the ICC regulations, and the Federal Railroad Administration regulations, that if certain things are done, a quiet zone can be established, and the trains don't have to blow their horns. So there are 58 quiet zones in California. The only one in Los Angeles County is out in Glendale. what it really comes down to is you need double crossing arms at the intersections instead of single crossing arms. Right now, if you go down to, probably the best one that illustrates it is the entrance into the terminal right at the, on John Gibson Boulevard, right where the off-ramp is by the police station. And you can see that there's two cross arms there. So if you're going in from Gibson Boulevard, there's a cross arm that comes down that prevents you from going across the tracks. And if you're coming out of the terminal onto Gibson Boulevard, there's a cross arm that comes down. What the Federal Railroad Administration is concerned about is that people can go around the cross arms, kind of an S maneuver, and get avoid the traffic stoppage. So by installing an additional cross arm on each direction, then you can establish a quiet zone for that intersection, and the trains don't have to blow their horns. It's a particular good candidate, that one, and there's several others around the port too.
I think our
Go ahead.
number one concern from our neighborhood standpoint, and the number of local complaints we've heard is the spur line that goes down to the
Right.
Plains, whatever those tanks are called now, Plains tanks,
Yeah.
which ends in a double dead end.
Yeah.
That's been the most difficult thing for us, and we hear the horns blow certainly at Westmont and coming under the freeway.
Uh-huh.
And am I correct that they also have to do it at the entrance to the city yard?
To the where?
The entrance to the city yard on Gaffey, just,
Any place where cars can cross.
yeah,
There's a few certain exceptions. I'm not sure, for example, how the one at Gatton that crosses into the to the city sanitation site is treated. I don't think it has any crossing arms, and it may not be covered by the noise requirement. But I'm here to tell you that a lot of the noise that's attributed to Westmont crossing is actually coming from across the freeway, believe it or not.
okay.
Those noises will really carry. Anyway, what the agency who can apply for the quiet zone is the harbor department, because the rail lines are owned, and the land is owned by the port. The port's agent, the harbor Pacific Harbor Lines, operates it for them and would do the construction and so forth. But it needs the harbor department to apply for and to create the quiet zones. So in my mind, anyway, the trick is, how do you get the harbor department to do that? Well, they've been approached in the past, and in fact, at one point, they agreed to create 5 crossings over in the Wilmington area as quiet zones, and a grant was given for it. Something happened. I think it was a change of administration. Anyway, the grant expired. They didn't construct the quiet zones.
No, but when you said 5, that was one quiet zone consisting of 5 intersections? Is that?
It can be either way. You can designate it as a single crossing as a quiet zone, or you can do it all through the port. There's all kinds of ways to do it. There are specific tests that you go through to determine priorities and the eligibilities for it, Dan. Proximity to residences, carrying sound of the noise, the frequency of the crossings, all that sort of thing is all taken into account. I think the case is easily made. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that we can make the case for it. But what I'm suggesting is the easiest way to get it done is to sit down with 3 commissioners, one at a time. It would be Anthony Perosi, and then the commissioner from Wilmington and, why is my mind blocking on her? Diane Middleton. And then
Yeah,
explain it to them, educate them, explain it to them. I've asked Jason Herring, and he's agreed to do some research work and, presentation stuff on it. There are the maps showing where the quiet zones are throughout California. And, for example, West Sacramento is on Port Sacramento. It's on port property and it's in proximity to a lot of their tourist areas in West Sacramento. So, and there's a whole bunch of crossings all through Sacramento.
I guess it should not be surprising that there are quiet zones in Sacramento, that this kind of thing
Mhm.
winds up in the capital city.
Well, there's some down in Irvine and some in,
Yeah,
some in Orange and other places. Look, as far as I'm concerned, the port should have put put the crossing stuff in and gotten the quiet zones before, when they built the entrances to the terminals. They did it on the cheap. It's the same reason that they put power poles. You need a lot of power to run terminals. And if you look at the power poles in Gibson Boulevard all along the designated scenic highway, you see 6 and 7 cross arms on those things to handle all of the electricity that's going into the terminals. They could have put them underground then. They've got them underground inside the terminal areas, but in the boundary between the port property and the community, they don't care. I mean, I'm just going to be frank about that. That they, and don't quote me on that ever, because I wouldn't want to approach them with a chip on my shoulder. But what I think the discussion for you guys, because is do you need to have you need to take this to the board to get permission to talk to the commissioners, or do you want to designate a committee as somebody to go over and sit down with them and show them the drawings and show them the requirements and tell them, hey, we'd like to work with you on getting this done. This is what it's gonna, put some people on it in the port, get the chief harbor engineer and the director of development busy on it and come up with the plans and the costs and the committee that's going to put together the applications for the quiet zones and
the documents you sent the links to are slow reading, but they're not impossible. There's a lot to them, obviously. So we're really looking at a two-phase project. One is getting permission to initiate the quiet zones, and the other is getting it funded. But I guess if we are approaching the port about them getting permission, then it logically would follow that they'd be the ones paying for it.
Oh, they have to. I mean, it's their crossings.
Yeah.
There's nobody else that has the power to do it except the port.
Okay. So it's really a single-headed spear.
Yeah.
It's a matter of putting together a package of selling it to the commission and then following through.
Yeah, 10 years ago, I think the last time I was working on this, the cost then was estimated to be about, even on the big crossings where the cross arms are, are a bigger installation, it was going to be like $200,000 per crossing. They can afford to do it. It's not an unbearable expense for them. Look, I mean, if it weren't for the federal, for the Railroad Administration requirement that it be done, and the fact that that preempts local law, they'd be in violation of the city's municipal noise ordinance. It clearly in excess of the differential between the ambient noise level and the decibel level of these horns, the ones at night. So how do you want to do it? I mean, Jason and I can do the graphics and stuff like that. You know, and what you also can do, if you look at that list of the 58 crossing zones, you can just go into Google and put in West Sacramento quiet zones, and all of the maps and everything that show the quiet zones in West Sacramento and in Sacramento pop up for you, and you can see the maps and everything like that. But they're hard to, you know, they're engineers maps. You know, they're the
Yeah.
kind of maps that that the FRA, Federal Railroad Administration, the ICC would like to see, but they're not graphic. They're not showing the pictures. You gotta have to probably go to Street View and, you know, put that into a graphic presentation so you can show it to the report and say, look, this is what we want. This is what you need to do in order to get the quiet zones.
Would it be up to us in our presentation to the port to prove that it's within X distance of dwelling units, a certain number of dwelling units, or is that up to us to have to prove it and take and do sound tests and?
It would be persuasive, but probably not necessary. First of all, the port has done several noise studies under the Harbor Community Benefits Foundation, but they buried them. I don't know what happened to those. They did one of the sound tests on my balcony. They put the sound equipment while I was on vacation. I gave permission to come in and put it here because the configuration of my property here just acts like a big receiver. It's especially loud on the side of the hills over here.
Mm.
And but they would have to, what they would do, what the port should do, is they'd say, okay, engineering, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go out and find out what the need is, or what the facts are with respect to certain specific crossings. Probably the one at Gibson Boulevard, probably the one around by Figueroa, and then there's like 5 over in Wilmington. And the commissioner over in Wilmington would be hot on them to do that, is my bet.
Those are the 5 original ones that you referenced earlier.
Well, yeah, the 5 over there. One of them was up at Pacific Coast Highway.
Oh.
Yeah, and so.
And we could add in Westmont, and et cetera.
Well, you could do Westmont, surely. Westmont is an interesting situation. They actually have an alternative that they could do at Westmont, and there's a lot that can be done with things like scheduling and so forth. Your big generators of the rail horn noise now and in the future is going to be the increase of round the clock access to the terminals. When things were busy before COVID and so forth, the port actually went to an around the clock system and gave discounts to access to the ports if you came in the middle of the night.
Right.
Those were days when they had huge backups and guys would be sitting parked for hours trying to get into the terminals. Well, as business picks up again, that's going to be a problem, and you're going to have more rail horn noise.
We who live in immediate earshot vividly remember Councilwoman Hahn heralding the arrival of 24/7 action at the port. It
Well,
definitely changed our lives over here.
Well, I think the port has actually done a little bit with respect to horn noise. Their problem in communication is they don't tell the community when they do those things, when they make improvements. In the past, when I was when Geraldine Ness was the executive director, rail horn noise was so bad here, it was waking me up practically every night. And so I would send her an email to her home and to her office every single time it did it. 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And I says, go talk to the railroad and tell them to put a flagman out there or some other things when they're doing switching, because they would get at that crossing and cross it 5 or 10 times in an hour.
Right.
You know, and the engineer on it you could identify the engineer by how he did his horns, because they're all done manually. And there was one asshole who was in particular who would really lean on that horn, make those toots really long. So at one point, I filed claims against the city, $100 per claim. I filed 20 of them against them to get their attention. That did get their attention, and I think they did some things to it then, but they haven't continued with it. Either that, or they've gotten too busy now and they don't can't keep all the rail horn noise down. But
Well, that clearly, as you say, may well be an issue, but if there is some medium term, it wouldn't be immediate, of course, but in the medium term, if we could coax them into this notion of the quiet zones and have them put it in their budget, that would be spectacular.
yeah, Dave,
It'd be as
I
much
gotta-
of an improvement as we would ever be able to make, probably.
I'd give a suggestion to you, and that'd be,
Please.
why don't you talk to to Ray and ask him how he wants to proceed on this? Maybe he would just simply say, put together a working group and go talk to the port. And if you can't get anywhere with the port, or if you're at the point where the port needs to, or you need some backup or something like that, then you come back to the neighborhood council. You could do it that way, or you can take it to, maybe Ray will say, hey, or the committee here, the issues committee here could do a recommendation and a motion and see, saying, hey, we're going to appoint a group to go approach the port. That may be one way too, that Augie would get the message and take it back to the port. I talked to Mike Galvin about it and said this is becoming an issue again. And he said he didn't want to step on Augie's toes and have it go directly to him, but eventually it would work his way up to Mike Galvin.
Mike Galvin. Is that VIN?
Yeah, Galvin.
Okay.
Mike basically has responsibility for the land side improvements, and there's a little bit of crossover here. This is actually the terminal guys and stuff, but Mike's involved with some of this, and he would be the guy that would be carrying the ball to Gene Soroka, and then Gene, of course, would take it to the Board of Harbor Commissioners. But we need to have the Board of Harbor Commissioners, at least those 3 commissioners, lined up beforehand.
I see. I know we've had mixed results with this in the past, but this certainly sounds like something that we should engage with Wilmington about.
Oh, yeah.
This, and I know very little about the board over there now. Although I think one of the commissioners used to be on their neighborhood council.
Well,
The
her
lady
sister-
you mentioned.
Yeah, her sister, and I think her both. Her
Yeah.
sister works at the port.
Yeah, what's her name?
Last name's Moreno.
The Moreno sisters, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, it seems like this would be a natural for neighborhood councils to connect and go in united
right.
with request to the port.
It fits with a little bit with Jason's motion that I think it's already been approved by the neighborhood council, having to do with the red car and the connections to the mass transit system, the MTA system. So I think that's why Jason's interested in this project as well. And I will say that the port has been responsive in the past. When we had a port committee, we got the port to put greasers on the rail, because used to get, rail wheel squeal when it went around a curve. And
It's pretty bad.
you remember that?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's not the issue it once was, for sure.
yeah. And it's because they installed the equipment.
Much improved. Okay. Well, I think a key thing here then is I want to ask the committee. Pat's making these recommendations, and I think our best approach is to keep it as local as possible. And I would certainly think that we should approach Wilmington about this. Perhaps Ray can, that's one way he can get involved, is I know they have presidents meetings occasionally,
Yeah,
of the San Pedro group, but this, I think we've got to bring Wilmington in this because it's as much or more their issue than ours. Because they've got residences cheek to jowl all the way along their southern flank there. So if anybody on the committee want to, first of all, any
Dan?
comment?
Dan,
Yes, Lori, hi.
it's Lori. The Wilmington Neighborhood Council right now, I don't know how to say this politically correct, wants nothing to do with the other neighborhood councils. Okay, the current regime are not friendly to us. They do not want to be involved with Hank and are very adversarial. So the president is, they're very rude. You're welcome to try.
there is one person over there who was very active in this project in the past. She used to be a council deputy. Married to Frank DePuy, but her name isn't Frank DePuy. You know who I'm talking about? Oh, well, anyway, she's the one that put together the funding and the project for the 5 crossings in the past. She would probably be willing to work on this project, but you know, Ray has good relationships with some of the people over there, and Ray can talk to, no?
Not right now.
Well,
I mean, you should still try, but I'm telling you, the current president and the past president have not been friendly to Ray or to anybody on coastal, central, or northwest.
Well, if there's no objection from the committee, I'd like to talk to Ray about this
Sure.
and
Yeah.
consider next steps. I'm sure Lori's correct, but we ought to give Ray the right of refusal, I think, to talk to him.
yeah, one other thing, that the port really listens to Wilmington. If Wilmington coughs, they hear it.
And we get tuberculosis. Yeah. So I don't think we need a direct motion out tonight, but looking at our list of participants, Vic, David, and Chuck, and John, please feel free to speak up, but I will talk to Ray about this issue and see if he has some thoughts about the creating a standing committee or an ad hoc committee or a neighborhood council, tea party. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's get some input from Ray on this, because if Wilmington is to be involved, it will involve some delicate diplomacy.
Yeah.
And I certainly think we owe it to them to ask if they want to be involved. We're in it for ourselves. We really want to quiet down our neighborhood, but I think it's worth asking.
Could you bring it to the port president's meeting, which was last night, but I don't believe anybody from the Wilmington Neighborhood Council showed up.
Well, that sounds like the right venue for it. If I don't hear any objection, I'll talk to Ray about this and
No,
see
go for
what he
it.
thinks. Okay.
I have a question for
Yes.
Pat.
Chuck.
Hi, Chuck. How you feeling?
Pretty good, thank you. Pat, did I hear you say that the noise we're hearing is not from Westmont? It's from across somewhere else on the port?
Yeah.
I think that by frequency, there's no way it can all be from Westmont.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that people have in the back of their mind that there's no way that the sound could be affecting us over in your area when it's on
Crossing
the
the
other side of the freeway.
Oh,
But I'm here to tell you it does, and it can.
That makes sense, Pat. And on both senses. One, yes, sound reflects weirdly. And also, you're right, the frequency of it has to be more than the trains going in and out of the tank area there. So yeah, it's a good point. But I would like to include Westmont in any And any other intersection, even if
sure.
it's the entrance to the city yard, that the FRA would require to be included.
Yep.
So it's probably your original notion of the 5 or 7, 5 in Wilmington and 2 or 3 here in San Pedro, but adding a couple at least coming up Gaffey. So if there's, then great. I'm going to talk to Ray about it, and I will we'll report back. We'll be talking about this a lot more in future meetings, but I will now crack open the links that Pat sent again and begin to try to absorb some of that very interesting information about the quiet zones.
Yeah,
Uh,
I urge you just to Google, pick one quiet zone, just the name of it, and just
Yeah.
Google it. Just say West Sacramento quiet zones. You'd be amazed at all of the documents that are that pop up there.
Good.
So
Good. Well, as former Mayor Buttigieg, who's now going to be the transportation secretary, found when he worked on creating quiet zones for South Bend, I guess some department in his city was supposed to work on this, and they had 5 years and they didn't get anywhere. So he essentially took it over himself and realized that was a mistake, but he slogged it all the way through, and it took him a long time, but they finally got results.
really, I
So
didn't know that, yeah.
it can be done, clearly, as West Sacramento proves, and the other areas in California. So it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
impossible. It's simply another hurdle.
Well, the ICC and FRA people that I've talked to say, hey, it's a piece of cake, just apply. You just follow the steps. It's not hard.
To go back,
method
to
is
go
all-
back to what our guest earlier in the evening said, piece of cake really doesn't describe some of these things. If you hear piece of cake, you should run in the other direction, probably.
I think that there's misconceptions out there, including by Andy, about what it's like to work with the city and how you do it.
Right. And there's certainly, I hope that we're proof that you can work with the city in many instances and get some results. So let's try and keep that streak going if we can. So I'll talk to Ray and get back to everybody, and this will be on our agenda for some time to come.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay. Good night.
Talk to you soon. Very good. The item number 4 is whatever the latest word we have is on the signals at Biner Drive or Biner and Western. John, if you're there, sorry. Hello, John. John has been talking to the council office, Ryan specifically, I believe. And John, I don't know if he got back to you with anything else in the last 48 hours, but.
No, Ryan, no. Well, I talked to him the other day and he emailed me and we talked about this, and he said he thought it was LADOT. And I said, no, because they had a meeting already and Rock had already asked the head guy from DOT, right? And he said, no, that's not our area. So then Ryan, Ryan said to me, he goes, yeah, okay, well then I guess then I'll have to do my homework. He says, give me a few days and I will look into this and I'll get back to you and I'll have a
Good.
fix for it and we'll rechange it if we have to. And,
So
call
hopefully
them
we can report something for the board meeting
yeah,
on whenever it is in February. That would be good. It is strictly a jurisdictional question. And I know that slowly Caltrans is beginning to back off of its control of some of these state highways like Western and Hawthorne. But it's still very much in their wheelhouse. So they'll have to talk to DOT or we'll have to do something, but I certainly think it's a council office question because constituents are complaining about a safety issue and an inconvenience, but I think as much a safety issue as an inconvenience. And that's what the council office is there to work on. And so, good, John. Thanks for talking to Ryan, and I know you'll keep him on his toes. And if we can get at least an update for our board meeting, that would be great. But the constituent, Rock, and the constituents who are involved need to know we're working on it. So thank you, John. Now we come to that special part of our program every month. Looking forward to it immensely. No, we've done our Tonight Show shtick earlier in the evening. The Science Center, our good friend and committee member, Vic Christensen. If you're there, I'd like to call on you to spend a little bit of time on where we are. I realize nothing may have changed, but let this be a time. And it's now 6:25. Let's spend a few minutes here talking about what's going on. And you are the keeper of great wisdom on this subject. So let us know what's going on. And I think what I'd ultimately like to hear about is your assessment of the school district's commitment to keep the Science Center going. And I know that's a big question, maybe too much for tonight, but let us know what's going on there.
That is a big question, even when they're talking to us, let alone when they're not. Well, yeah, as far as the stuff that was happening pre-pandemic, nothing much has changed because they've been, more busy figuring out what to do within the district and, vaccinations, opening or not opening schools and stuff like that. So they've had, and I hate to say it this way, but they've had more important things to do than the Science Center, even though I think it is very important. Obviously, a pandemic situation is more important. But as far as what's been going on down there, there have been various, there's good and bad. There have been various times when water has been left on overnight, over a weekend, that kind of thing. And I'm not exaggerating when I say over a weekend. Lights on the same time. Dan Lothar has taken pictures and video of just recently over the 14th, 15th of January, of the water, the sprinklers being on, the lights being left on. I have tried to get them to do something. I've suggested ideas. Nothing seems to work. I've suggested like an end of day checklist so they can, check on those things before they leave for the day. Motion sensors for the lights, since they still have not found it in their wisdom to give me keys to anything but the front gate. Even though the construction of the buildings is done, that was supposed to fix various, structural things, such as the floor rot where the turtle tank used to be and stuff like that. However, I'll move on to that. But so I finally suggested out in the open to the advisory committee as well as the LAUSD people, which I had been trying to not have to do. But I finally suggested to anybody who sees stuff like that happen, especially in the middle of the night or something like that, off hours, call the LA school police. And I gave the number and the website and everything, and tell them to come out, because you never know, there might be somebody trying to do something they're not supposed to inside, or maybe something happened to somebody and they're collapsed inside the building. That's why the lights are on or something like that. I think that's very unlikely, but if the school police comes out enough times, then maybe they'll get on the ball and do something. So, not holding my breath, but that was what I suggested. As far as the structural repairs that were supposed to have been done, and supposedly part of it was, the reason they took down the original mural was because it was cracked and stuff like that. And I, at that point, back then, suggested that, well, maybe, these cracks are at regular intervals that appear to be where the studs are. And so just within the last couple weeks I was down there, the cracks are still there. The mural had nothing to do with it. It wasn't cracks in the mural. Well, at least it wasn't caused by that. The cracks in the mural were caused by the cracks in the building, and the cracks are still there. So whatever repairs they were supposed to have done didn't fix that. And I brought that up again, and I was told that they are going to look at that again. Let's see. As far as the new mural that's supposed to be put up there, they are supposed to have a design for that by the beginning of February. And I, made it a point to say, well, you're going to get input from the advisory council, correct? And they said yes. So we'll see how firm the design is when that happens. And it's supposed to incorporate some of the old and the new. So I'm not sure exactly what that means.
But Vic, may I ask if
Sure.
they're talking about a new mural in the same location?
As far as I know, yes.
So the structural problems that are buckling the wall to the point that you can see it through the art, that's going to continue to be an issue if they put up a new mural, correct?
Correct.
So,
Which was part of my point, that they need to, fix all that before they paint the outside with the mural, because otherwise the mural is just going to get, cracked in those places even sooner.
Now the mural is the backdrop behind you, is that correct?
Yes, the original mural, what you're seeing behind me is that. If you can set it so I can share my screen, then I can show you more of it. But I don't know if you can, and I don't know if it's worth the time to figure it out.
No, that's okay. It's just, that's what's there now, and it's been damaged. Oh, it's not. Okay, sorry.
They removed that before they
okay.
did the construction.
Okay.
So they're right now it is just a blank wall.
Okay. So we're not talking about
for several
restoration.
months. I don't remember exactly when they took it down.
Okay, that's fine. So, but the point is, if it's put up on a substandard surface, it's going to be an issue down the line.
Well, and it's also that's part of that's the point regarding the mural. But the other point is, if there is structural damage still there, then that could be an even bigger issue when people start going there on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to fix that before they start having people, there on a regular basis.
Got it. Thank you.
And let's see, the area in the, let's see, northwest corner of the Science Center that borders Cooper/Johnston, in the desert area where the cacti are, the cacti are being shaded way too much by the trees that are right there. So they're not in good shape. And so we also brought that up for them to trim the tree back, but that hasn't been done yet as of this past weekend. Because I was down, I go down there at least once a week, and they were not trimmed at all. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but I was told that they will, get out there and do something. But when, who knows?
Got it.
Let's see. And Feed and Be Fed is still planting down there. They planted not only their regular raised crops and some of the ground crops that they had, more of cover crops to wick out any contaminants and that kind of thing. But they also started planting in a new area, if you know, for whoever remembers the layout down there, there's the big banana plants that are between the pond area and the other parts of the area. And the banana, well, it's like I said, it's
Good enough.
if you know the layout, it's fine, but it's without a diagram, it's kind of hard to describe.
Just look for the banana plants. Okay.
But they're banana plants on the same part of the plot as this open area where they're planting crimson clover as a cover crop. And then Peter Roth, who's the head of Feed and Be Fed, who also noticed the cacti problem, said that once that grows out, they will turn it back into the soil because there are a lot of nutrients in that kind of plant. So they will try to get nutrients back into the soil. And they've taken that whole rectangular plot that's there. It's kind of between the banana plants and the corrals where the pony and the pig were, if that helps at all.
That begins to. So you, as our, frankly, primary liaison to all of this, are obviously documenting what you're seeing there. You're transmitting that information to the district, and they are to some degree responsive about the near-term maintenance and trimming issues and that sort of thing, or at least leading you to believe they are. But the overall future is of course, because of COVID and everything else, is murky at the moment. Can I ask a real simple question? You may have covered this at the board meeting, I don't remember. Can't they give you a key to shut off the water?
Well, okay. The water is easy because I have my own water key.
Oh, good.
They gave me, when I guess I was a bit misleading. When they gave me a key, they literally gave me a key to the gate. I asked for building keys. I asked for water keys. They did not give one to me. So I got my own water key. So I can go in there and turn it off. There are also, I'm not sure what the technical term is for this type of valve, but the valve where, you know, it's just it's not a water key valve. It's more of a, like what I call a gate valve where you just have a lever.
Yeah, quarter turn lever. Yeah.
When it's perpendicular to the pipe, it's turned off. When it's moved toward being parallel with the pipe, it gradually comes on based on the amount of
It's called
movement.
it's called a ball valve.
Okay. That my dad would have known that immediately, but I just couldn't come up with the name. So for those type, it's pretty easy, and I suggested that one way to make it easy to keep that from happening even accidentally, because one time one of those ball valves was on, it unlikely, but it could have been an animal playing with the lever, because I've seen raccoons play with various things, and it was about 45 degrees on. So if they happen, and they're turned on by pushing them downward. So if that was what happened, one way to keep that from happening is you turn off the one that requires the water key.
There you go.
Because they won't get to that. They won't be able to do anything with that. So even if you have the ball valve on, the other one's off.
Well,
So,
it would be, at this point, we're relying on your largesse and care that when there is an issue with water, you'll go over there and get it shut off somehow.
right, if it's not in the middle of the night.
Right.
At least nobody has told me that, you know, in the middle of the night. This latest one was, I think Dan said he took pictures and video at about 5:15 a.m.
I see.
So
and essentially water runs down the curb at that point, is it?
well, it runs down wherever. In this latest case, it was a sprinkler watering the large lawn that is not the one in the front, but on the side.
Yeah.
In another case with the ball valve, it was the one in the same plot where Feed and Be Fed is now planting. and it ran down the sidewalk into the area where the pond is.
Oh, okay.
And I'm guessing
Okay.
if the grading had been a certain way, the pond might have gotten filled up because it was
Yeah.
on for the whole weekend.
If they just left it running in the right direction. Well, Vic, so bottom line here, is there something that we need to be doing as a committee, as a neighborhood council, beyond what the excellent work you are doing and that John and Chris are trying to contribute to? Is there something that we need to be doing at this point?
The short answer is no. I don't think so. The possibility is, maybe writing some letter to them saying, in more politically correct terms, I'm sure, get on the ball, stop wasting, electricity and water. And by the way, as Dan Lothar asked, who's paying for all that wasted energy and water?
Well, we know
Is
the
it the
answer to that.
taxpayers?
Yeah, us. Yeah, well,
So,
we know the answer to that. So a sharply worded letter to the editor. No, a letter
well,
that,
essentially, yeah.
yeah, okay. Well, let's,
But I mean, other than that, it's just more hounding them about it and hoping they do something.
well, Vic, again, with asking for input from the committee here, if you'll make up a bullet point page with the things you're talking about that we would address in a letter, then we can certainly formulate a motion to send a letter and handle that in the next cycle here. And I know you can come up with a laundry list par excellence.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Any comment from the committee or our guests? Hearing none. Thank you, Vic, for the always incisive information. And it's a labor of love in many ways for you, I know, but also a concern as a citizen as well. By the way, I want to mention at this point, it's apparently nothing we will hear about, but as your DWP liaison, I'm curious to find out why the following thing happened. We always talk about utility infrastructure. Well, here's a doozy for you. Apparently a superheated water main broke under the Civic Center over the weekend, and 180,000 gallons of 200-degree water poured into the vault that is, it's between the Hall of Administration and it's under Grand Park is where it is. And it was built when the Civic Center was built, when those two buildings were built, and it goes down pretty deep, and the archives for a lot of court records are kept down there for both criminal court and civil court and clerk business, that kind of thing. I don't think there's been a damage assessment yet, but I'm just glad that this 180,000 gallons of steam heated 200-degree water did not cascade down there during work hours. And it's a reminder yet again that, we can be as civically minded and as culturally attuned to everything going on as we can be. But the basic function of any city or any government is to not to keep the trains running on time, but to keep the sewers working, keep the water flowing, keep the lights on, and do so safely. And I'm going to try to find out if there's any more information about this. I don't know if it was a DWP hookup or it sounds like it's connected to the steam heating plant for those county and city buildings. So I'll try and find out more about it, but it's another reminder, as if we needed any more, of the aging infrastructure in our city and county. And as we look at mounting budget deficits and everything else going on, it's something that really has to be front of mind, not pushed back to a back burner as it has been, as infrastructure questions have been for so many years. So I just wanted to pass that on, and it's something we need to keep in mind as we move forward.
So you're saying the archives got flooded?
Well, I don't know. I don't know to what extent they did. I don't know if
Okay.
I don't know if our wedding certificate.
Well, because I mean, I had
It's
to go
gone
down
or
there
not.
to, I had to go down there to get something, so I know, you know, how it's the general arrangement.
Yeah.
And, you know, if water got down there, oh boy.
Well, they're not saying, they've already brought in curators and companies to pump the stuff out and start drawing stuff, figuring it out. I'm sure it's a bloody mess, but I've said perhaps more than I should have anyway. But this event happened. It's potentially serious. It could have been lethal if it had happened at a different time of day. And I'm just kind of want to make people aware of a reminder to all of us that the city and county governments need to keep their priorities straight, because we got a lot of old stuff out there that needs to be tended to. So with that, if there aren't any other comments or raised hands, John? Good. Then I want to thank everybody for attending tonight. We have some follow-up to do. We want to keep tabs on the skate park and be helpful as it moves forward where we can. We have our work cut out for us on the train horn issue, with or without the great community of Wilmington. But I think for those of us who live in Northwest San Pedro and elsewhere in San Pedro, it's something we really need to work on, because it is soluble. It's expensive. It takes a while, but it can be done. And the port has the money to do it. And then we'll see what info Ryan comes back with on the signals at Western and Biner. That should be a pretty simple fix.
Yeah.
It's a matter of getting the right people involved and engaged. Oh, I'm sorry. And whatever we can do, Vic, on the Science Center, you'll send me a list of bullet points, and we'll start putting a letter together for our next meeting. So that would go to the board, two board meetings from now. Oh, and I noticed number 6, I forgot to mention, nothing to report on the defense fuel supply point on Gaffey. The public information officer at Seal Beach indicates still nothing has happened. It could mean one of several things. The best would be that they really have not received a legitimate bid for anything to do with the property. Or it could be, on the other end of the spectrum, it could be they're working evil machinations to destroy our lives. I don't think it's the latter, but I doubt that it's the former anyway. Either it's an ongoing thing, and the Navy hasn't decided what to do next. But we are in touch with them regularly every week, and anything I hear, I will report back to you.
Hey, Dan, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
Lori.
it's Lori. I forgot to mention that I got an email from Glenn Acosta with the Clearwater project.
Yes.
And the road closures were supposed to start like this weekend on Gaffey, but apparently they're waiting for an approval from Public Works, has to put it through their board. I know it's always something.
Yeah.
And so, because I was just ready to go to press on the newsletter publishing, so I quickly
Yeah.
changed it, and he'll let us know. So it'll probably be, yeah, Clearwater, there you go. So yeah, so we don't know when the closures are. So I forgot to mention that.
Good.
So
Good to know. And I'm
Okay.
sure Andy Harris would be chuckling, since it's gone to a board, any board in the city. I'm sure it's a piece of cake to get approval for that, Lori.
But they just apparently didn't realize they had to put it before the Public Works Board
Yeah.
before they could do
Yeah.
that. So
Hey.
it's always something.
Remember, if you want to change your water heater, you got to go to the city for a permit. So nothing is easy. Thanks, Lori, for that.
No problem.
And since we're talking about Clearwater, I got this postcard in the mail.
So did I.
Okay, so everybody knows about, there's an update on January 30th and the Zoom IDs on the card.
Yep.
Okay,
We published that information in our weekly newsletter, so I could mention it again.
Good. Well, that'd be good because that's 4 days from now. So a last minute tickle reminder would be great if you have a facility to do that, Lori.
I'd like a last minute tickle, Dan. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm gonna take the flip on that one.
oh boy.
It would have to be from 6 feet away. All right. All right, my good friends. Thank you all for participating and for being here and everything you do for our community. And we will see you at our board meeting and somewhere out in the ether here in San Pedro. Have a good week and a good rest of the month.
Somewhere outdoor dining, maybe.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah,
You guys
stay
too,
safe.
man. Everybody
Stay
be
safe.
safe.
And it's really good to see that Chuck was back at the meeting.
Yes.
We're all thinking about you, Chuck. We missed you.
We missed you, Chuck. Thanks for coming back.
Chuck, you sound really good, Chuck. Keep up the good work.
We'll do it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you all. Take care.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Good night.
Good night, all. Thanks, John.
You're welcome, Dan. I'm gonna stop the recording now too.
Yes. And I don't think we said anything that would embarrass us, but we'll see you later.